Hey guys, I'm back for round two today. So again, this is kind of about my high school days. This is part two of the one that I started yesterday, which was difficult to upload because it was just long enough to make it take a little bit longer. So I'm going to just see if I can regulate a little bit, keep it long, but not too long. Okay, so to kind of get back on topic. Um, Needless to say, my behavior during the majority of my high school did not rub well with my parents, my mother and my stepdad. Um, I was in trouble more often than I was not, and I got tired of being under lock and key. I wanted to go have fun. I wanted to be out with my friends, which is how this all started in the first place. And so I decided to run away. I actually ended up running away, I think, twice. And one time before I started getting really, really in trouble, like I think it was either my freshman or early sophomore year, I actually concocted a tale and got me and my sister out of the house for an entire week. Um, I even found an adult person that would come into my house and meet my mom in person and pose as my friend's Uncle Danny so that we could go camping in their camper for the whole week and then go to, I think it was Great America, we said. So he actually came in, we paid him, and he came in and he posed as Uncle Danny. He did a great job. And we spent that entire week just partying and doing crazy things and having no real rhyme or reason to what we were doing that week. Where we never got caught for that either, which is funny now, but we could have gotten into so much trouble at the time. So, anyways, so yeah, I ended up running away twice. The the first time was more uneventful than the second. They kind of rounded me up. I ended up going home. It was kind of a big to do. The second time around, um, I was with Cash, and we were out in the middle of the up at the gravel pits, I think it was, or somewhere where we could park for the night and get freaky and be unbothered. Well, we were coming back down the next morning and we got stopped by a cop. And because I panicked because I was a runaway and I knew it, and Cash's dad was a little bit more, well, a lot more lenient with him. So the cop asked our names and he called Cash's dad and told Cash he was free to go. But I told them that my name was Sarah Thaxton. That was my fake name. And first they took me to the McGee Center for a little while, and then they realized no one was coming to pick me up. So they took me to Wittenberg Hall. Now, Cash tried his best to try to get someone to pose as a parent to get me out of there, but he didn't have any such luck, so he ended up having to call my mom and get her to come get me. But I did spend the night in juvie, and it was a little bit terrifying. those girls were well beyond where I was at that point. But so yeah, I so after the juvie trip, if you can't already guess, I was more than under lock and key. I couldn't even go on family trips with them. So what they did was they wanted to go on a river rafting trip, and I was not invited. So they brought my sister and they packed us all up and drove us out first to drop me off at their friend Judy and Bruce's house. They were like adoptive grandparents to us. We knew them growing up. They were really good friends of my parents when we lived in Pioneer, which is like very close to Sacramento. And they arranged for me to stay there for a few days with Judy and Bruce so that they didn't have to take me whitewater rafting, which I was kind of okay with because I figured I could get away with a lot there. I could get outside and smoke cigarettes. They didn't regulate me. I mean, they were just, they lectured me a little bit, but that was about it. So now, again, I would have gotten away with all of this scot free, except for the one little thing that cropped up that got me in trouble, but they still didn't find out about any of the worst of it. So, what I did was I figured out they had an extra phone downstairs. Now, they had a 3-level house, and I kind of had free reign of it. So I went downstairs and I made some long distance calls, and that's what got me caught. Back in the day, there weren't cell phones. We didn't even have any, like, in cell phones didn't even become a kind of a normal, um, attainable thing until just after high school for me. So, um, basically, we, we had to do things the old fashioned way. So I called Cash on their phone a lot, a bunch of times. I think I ran their bill up to like $300 actually. And but I didn't realize that. I didn't even, well, I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't care. I didn't think about it. I just wanted to talk to him, and I talked him in to coming to see me. So he drove all the way out there. I think it's like 2.5 hour drive, and he drove all the way out there in his Challenger. Um, and we I snuck out at night, and I spent 2 or 3 nights with him out there in the middle of nowhere. And you can guess what we were doing. We were in his car, which, let me just clarify, was not equipped for such activities. So it was a little bit of a shit show, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun. We really bonded, really got close during this time. Really got to know each other, sat and talked for hours until I had to sneak back into the house in the wee hours of the morning. Um, but that's actually one of the best memories that both me and him have together from back in the day, is that trip with Judy and Bruce when I was supposed to be under lock and key. But it was so easy to get out of that house. I mean, I just went downstairs and went out the door after I told them I was going to bed. And again, it didn't even occur to them to check, and I didn't think it would. So it was cake. um, now, uh, after all this, I had to go to court for the juvie thing, and they decided that I was going to get community service. I think it was 24 hours. And I had to do terrible things. I had to clean up the what was the stadium called? The Wolfpack Stadium at the college after a game. So we're digging like hunks of cheese from under the bleachers. They're yelling at us if we, like, because I had to lay down on my belly to get under the bleachers, and you couldn't do that. You couldn't sit, drape yourself, bend your knees or anything. Like, they were very, very militant about it. It was not the funnest time of my life. I also had to like muck out stables at some equestrian center, so that was fun. Um, now, you would think, I mean, I actually ended up a little bit later too. I ended up staying at McGee Center for about a week or so also, but that's more of a voluntary thing. They decided I needed more help, and they paid money for me to go there and get counseling or whatever for that week. But it was kind of cool there. It was relaxing. At least they had really good food. The kids there were fun. So um, I think they figured out that it wasn't really a punishment for me at some point and pulled me out of there because they didn't really want to pay for me not to be punished. Um, Now, I want to talk about also today too, um, the pregnancy. Okay, and again, I'm not at liberty to discuss exact terms, at least not openly like this, maybe in the book. But I was actually pregnant twice. I didn't know I was pregnant at first. I was right on schedule to start a period like normal, and I started bleeding like normal, and my stomach started hurting gradually worse and worse for 3 days and 3 nights. Going into the fourth night is when I finally broke. I was in such pain that I was crawling down the hall to my sister's room and laying in her bed, and she was rubbing my belly so I could sleep. And I went to school like this, having basically labor pains for 3 days. And and by the fourth night, I did something that I never ever again, never before, never after, ever had the balls to do ever in my life, which was wake up my mother. That's one of those terrifying things, something that you never do in that in that house. But I woke her up because I couldn't take the pain anymore, and she rushed me into the hospital. And by the time they figured out that I was having a miscarriage, I was so high on Demerol, I didn't even care if I was in trouble. I was like, um, I mean, afterwards, I was a little bit taken aback or whatever, but I was also surprised. I was very, very surprised. I did not realize that that was what was happening, or I probably would have wrote it out on my own. Um, so I ended up having to work odd jobs and pay my mother back for that hospital bill, which was also not fun. But I did at least get away with a little extra time after school because I had to have like I did like house cleaning jobs and stuff. And what I did was I was really good at house cleaning because my parents were pretty militant about keeping the house clean. So I found a lady who would pay me $5 an hour to clean her house. I did it really good twice, and then I told her it was too much work for that payout and I was going to have to quit. But she was so happy with my work and the fact that she could literally just leave her door open for me to come. I would come and get it done. I mean, right down to polishing the leaves on her plants. I would get it done for her, and so she let me quit. But then a couple of days later, she begged me to come back and double the pay. So I told my mom I didn't have that I decided to quit. It was too much work. I wanted to do a different job. And I was like, oh, she wants me back. So I guess I'm going to go back. But I didn't tell her I had a pay raise. So I was able to keep half the money for myself, which was a little bit better for me. I mean, that's the kind of way that I've always thought, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a salesman. Um, always trying to do it a little bit better. And so I decided that wasn't such a bad job after all, if I got to keep half the money in my pocket and at least I had cigarette money. um, but so not that long after the miscarriage, maybe 3 or 4 months was probably about the time I got pregnant again. Um, and that one I had a good idea. Obviously within the first 2 months, month or two, but I kept it to myself. I kept it a secret, and I actually graduated from high school about 3 months pregnant. So I did actually have that baby after I graduated, when I was out on my own. And just so you know, I wasn't on high during that pregnancy. I did sneak cigarettes. I was struggling not to smoke, but I did sneak cigarettes, and I smoked weed twice during that pregnancy. But mostly it was not because of really anything, but that there was nothing readily available at the time. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to try to be an adult here, exactly as it describes in the in the book in that sense. And so I went out and looked for ways, to kind of move out of the house and try to get out on my own. And I ended up staying actually with my brother and his boyfriend and his boyfriend's mom and her girlfriend for a few months until I gave birth. And then I ended up moving into Jack's house a little bit after that. That's someone that I used to babysit for over the years. And Jack basically split up with his wife and was moving in with his mom, and then needed someone to nanny for their kids. So I thought it was a really good setup. Little did I know, but that's another story that's coming up. Okay. Um, that's actually kind of the story of how I became as bad as I did and what led to all the other stuff, which again, there's still a lot more to come. She shrunk back the timeline a little bit because she wasn't sure exactly when it started. Um, she was convinced that I was on the hard stuff all the time earlier on, and I did act like I was. So she was within her rights to think that I was and to guess that I was. But I have no reason to skew the story, considering it all did happen. It's just the timeline's just, like I said, a little bit different. Um, so yeah, I had the baby, and his real name was Orion Storm. But I did want to touch on one little kind of funny thing that I thought you guys would kind of smile at, which is the fact that in the book, his name was Hunter Seth, and in real life, and again, this is years later, Cash's son came about, and he's only 16 now. So again, this was a few years well after the books were written, and he hadn't read them yet. But Cash's son's real name is Seth. So I thought that was kind of a neat parallel that I found in there. Again, there's some intuition that goes well beyond conversations that have been had or anything else. And I think that's just kind of neat. Okay, so that's my time for today. I appreciate all you guys. Remember, like, subscribe, share like crazy. I've opened up a new Facebook page with the name that everyone thinks that I have, Crystal Hopkins. So hopefully we'll be able to get to more people and to reach more people. I also did the same with Instagram, and I'm trying to link everything up with TikTok and trying to get to more people that way as well. So we'll see how it goes. I appreciate all your guys' help, all your feedback on my Facebook comment. And again, I'm always open for any suggestions, anything that you guys got, all right? Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.